Welcome to another episode of the DH Effect, the Decided Heart Effect with me, Hillary, and my amazing co-host, Sonia. Today, we are joined by one of my favorite humans, Joan Steffend. Watching her as an Emmy-winning news reporter, writer, and anchor on Channel 11 News in Minnesota, and then later on HGTV, on the top-rated show Decorating Stunts, the Rose Bowl, Oprah, like all of the things. It wasn't the famousness that attracted me to her. It was her storytelling. Even through TV, she always just made you feel better for having spent time with her. You know, she was being authentically her before that was even a thing. She invites others to claim their own authenticity and just bring wonder and light through her books and through her speaking. Gosh, thank you so much for joining us today, Joan. It's an honor to have you here with us.
I want to say, are you kidding? I am so excited to be here. This is my jam, to talk about possibility and potential with cool women and you know, to talk about storytelling and how we can do this life better. This is going to be like the joy bubble of my day. So thank you.
Well, Joan, we would love to hear your Decided Heart experience. I mean, the movement that has happened in your life, from, broadcasting to suddenly being, in interior decorating, and then Oprah, and then all the things which lead to Peace Begins With Me.
Yeah.
And which is, the work that you do now. Can you kind of share how's that journey been like in terms of Decided Heart experience?
Wow. Well, I'll give you a thumbnail sketch, but like the overarching theme is I'm a selfish quitter. That's like my theme for my life when I look back, and I mean it in a good way. I grew up in a little town in Minnesota. I always felt like I didn't quite belong, and I kept thinking like I'll look outside of myself. I'll fill the holes with things that the culture thinks is awesome, and TV was one of those things. I started out in theater, studied at Warner Brothers for a while. They didn't really like me, so I came back and then I decided television would be a good idea. And I honestly, my life is kind of like Forrest Gump. I just fall into things. I accompanied my now ex-husband on an interview for a television job in Duluth, Minnesota, and they hired me too for some unknown reason. So it's like destiny was pulling me forward. So I had the job in TV there, didn't fill the holes, ended up quitting that job. Another selfish quitter moment. I also quit college, selfish quitter moment. And then I went to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I was a news anchor and reporter there and had some success. Didn't fill the hole, so I quit that. And then I, again, fell into a job on HGTV. I swear to you, I went to a book club meeting one night and I came out with a job on HGTV. Forrest Gump lives in me. And then I did that, and it was lovely, and I enjoyed it, and I laughed a lot, but it didn't fill the hole, so I quit that. And I ended up writing a book that showed me exactly what was missing. And oh yeah, nice prop. It ended up being called And She Sparkled, and it just points to the fact that so many of us grow up in a world that has such high expectations of us and such clear expectations of who you should be, what you should look like, what you should do, what you shouldn't say. And I was listening to all of those. I was a people pleaser extraordinaire. It was like, who do you want me to be? Okay, I'll try to be that. At the same time, my real self was shining through, gratefully, according to Hillary. So yeah, so I started thinking about who I was, and I started a real discovery process. I was sitting in silence a lot. I was sitting in nature a lot. I was looking back over the stories in my life that had been told to me, especially what had been told to be by my family, like, you're stubborn, you're angry, you need to be taller, you need to be prettier, you need to, those kinds of things. And I started disassembling those stories one by one and taking them off of me. And eventually, I mean, I'm still in the process, who isn't, but eventually I just started to understand that who I am is pretty darn cool. And I decided that the doing was less important than the being, and the radiating of something was more important than you know, proselytizing and some of the stuff that we would do in the news business. So it left me on this journey of self-discovery, which in my mind, another bottom line for me, there are things that I always start and end my speeches with. One is remember who you are, because it is brilliant and it is unique and it is necessary. Be who you are, because the world needs it. It takes courage to be who you are in a world that doesn't always welcome exactly who you are. And then share who you are, because that's what shifts the world. So it's kind of where I am.
I love the message though, because I think that there are so many people out there that are so afraid. You said, remember who you are. And the funny thing is there's so many people that I think they've allowed layer after layer after layer to come on and dictate and be these talk tracks in their head, these life scripts, because they've heard you're stubborn, you're this, or you're whatever. Now that's become who they are, which, you know, Sonia and I are big believers in trying to call out from people what we see in them so that they own it too, you know, saying things like, oh my gosh, Joan, for me, the joy, you know, I think of joy as being this, the Dalai Lama says, this conglomeration of contentment and peacefulness and kindness all together. You know, happiness is fleeting.
Yeah.
You embody joy. And to hear like joy being called out of someone, as opposed to, you know, we sit here and we're like, I don't know, I guess I was stubborn. Oh, I guess, you know, we need to see those things in one another. And I love that you call people to that. You say, who are you really?
Yes. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And it's shocking to me how little people can believe in themselves. You know, they know what they are, they know what they've been told they are, but they don't really know who they are and how, you know, what a beautiful bloom that is when it shows up. So, yeah, I love it.
I can imagine is, you know, sometimes when we realize like, wait, I haven't been who I really am, and to unpack feels big. And I'm comfortable here in this other identity that others have defined me. And I love your motto, because with Peace Begins With Me, you have this thing, small, big peace project. And the small to big is hugely important, because we don't have to transform, you know, climbing one big mountain. It's these smaller steps. Can you talk more about that?
Well, I just feel like there's only one tool that you are given in the world to affect change, you know, and it's not anything you can buy at a store, and it's not anything that someone can hand to you. You've been given the tool of who you are in order to affect change in the world, you know. And so how are you going to use that? Don't be afraid to take the smallest step forward. And that's part of the reason, like, wonder is one of my new favorite words. Wonder what you can do that would affect change today. Wonder what you could do that could make you feel better. Wonder in the smallest ways if you want to, or wonder in the largest ways, but take that step forward, like walk past that person in the store, in the mask, you know, and just, I'm not even asking you to say hello if you don't feel like you can. I would ask you to fill your heart with a good feeling and direct it toward them. However that feels to you. It's like, think a good thought. You have no idea how many people I bless a day if I'm out in the world, or even if I'm at home. But, you know, I'll drive along the freeways or walk through stores and just say in my head and hopefully my heart, you know, bless you in whatever way is best for you. Because I think someone walking by, they may not hear it, they may not actually feel it, but I know it's in their field somehow. So I just don't, I want to, it's about taking responsibility for who you are in the world. There was a brain researcher, what was her name? She had a stroke, and her book was called My Stroke of Insight. And she lost the capacity in her left brain, which is all list making and structure and science and math and all that stuff that I was never good at. But she only had access to the right side of her brain. And she said in that state, she could feel the energy that people walked into her room with. And so I take that to heart. It isn't just for stroke patients who have lost the use of their left brain. If she could only feel that, somebody would walk in and she could feel their prickliness towards her. If they thought she wasn't, you know, she was just a body in the bed, and she could feel the embrace of a loving presence coming in who is treating her as a human on her way to health. So why would we think that that's not present in our day-to-day life? We've just not noticed it, you know?
Yeah.
So it feels like it's my responsibility in the smallest way to offer up the energy that I have of love and hope to people, especially today, especially in the world right now.
I love, it's so valuable what you're saying, Joan. And it's funny because I know so many people out there still, and I don't understand this because there's so much science, see this as woo-woo, right? Like
Right.
energy is woo-woo. But yet, I mean, I'll tell you what, one of the most scientific, like educated people that I have ever met, who also happened to be a coroner in a really rough part of Arizona, where she had a lot of violent things she was dealing with. She told me she could walk into a room and she could feel by the energy before anyone told her what had happened, if it was violent, if it was peaceful, if it was, she could feel the energy. This is like the top scientist, right? You know? And I believe that. And I do think, I mean, Sonia and I talk about energy infusers and energy vampires. Like you don't want to be an energy vampire that's sucking. You're responsible for the energy you bring to the room. And I love, you know, you always lead with kindness. And when I say that, it's not just leading with kindness with who you are, which is very much, but that is like, if there's one word that I could think of that you are out there preaching, it's that word. Like, can we just be kind?
Yeah. I had to kind of move away from the word peace because people got agitated by that word for some reason. I had founded the nonprofit Peace Begins With Me, and people couldn't quite grasp it. They thought it was something that was anti something and that was associated with a time and place. And I thought, I'm a distiller by nature, so I tried to bring it to the like a smaller seed. And to me, the action form of peace is kindness, because that's it's like, I notice who you are, I accept who you are, I offer you this as a token of, you know, me seeing you. Also, I wanted to say, when you said woo-woo, I got so excited because this came to me like maybe 5 years ago. Woo-woo to me is the feminine. And when people start discounting the woo-woo, to me, it's like they haven't quite noticed the power and strength of the feminine yet. It's been discounted for decades, centuries, however long, I don't know. But that's why, to me, it feels like a reclamation project to say woo-woo is not a light thing to be dismissed or to be laughed at. It's something to embrace and to know its true nature. And its true nature is strength and nurturing and love and inclusiveness and all the little things that wire us together. So reclaim woo-woo.
Oh my gosh. Well, Hillary and
Go,
I was
Sonia.
like,
Go, Sonia. Go. I know you're going to say it. Go.
I can't help it because I feel I've grown so much in that spirit. So a couple of episodes ago, we invited a friend, Katya, from UCSB, and we did a book review on Cassandra Speaks by Elizabeth Lesser. And it's all—
I watched part of that. It was awesome. I didn't get to see it all, but I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, great. Well, that book was, for me personally, a transformation. It's not even a transformation. It was, remember who you are, Sonia.
Yes.
And I'm literally like in tears because we did this book club discussion and I'm like crying because I always knew it. I always knew in my heart it was my superpower, but everyone told me, oh, you're so nurturing, you're so soft, you're so sensitive and compassionate. And as it's less than. And that book and the conversation and what you're saying about woo-woo is my superpower. I'm like, that is how I've changed the world, right? So yeah, and so that was the latest discovery. You know, unfortunately, it's, you know, I'm in my mid-40s, but that's okay because I've always believed it. Now I'm supercharging.
Well, I'm mid-60s and I'm still, you know, like feeling the joy of that reclamation, because I mean, we all grew up in a time and place, no matter, you know, even today, kids are growing up in that sense of like, you know, there's strength that is honored. That's kind of like a, you know, a strong strength, like a war, good versus bad kind of a thing. But the strength that comes from looking someone in the eye and saying, I know who you are and you can do amazing things. Let me help you. Let me hold you. Let me encourage you. I mean, what kind of a strength is that? I mean, it changes future in a positive way. So claim the woo-woo. That's us. We're the woo-woo,
Yeah.
you know, woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love if for a second we can sit in the idea of kindness and the everyday kindnesses. I mean, part of the kindness, it's funny because I see yours, we talked about your superpowers off air, and that your superpowers are being who you are.
Mhm.
It is kindness and it is wonder,
Mhm.
amongst the
Imagine-
other things. I love that. I love that. But the funny thing is those two things are so closely tied together, because
Mhm.
when you show up as who you are, and when you show genuine curiosity in other humans, that is a kindness. When we sit and in all humility and honor, hear someone else's story and bear witness to it, and then help them see the best in themselves, that will get reflected back, and it creates such a ripple effect. It's so powerful.
And it's not telling somebody what to do. It's not like, oh, I see what your problem is. You should go over there and, call that person and do that thing. It's just offering the back the mirrored reflection of the radiance of who they are, so they can see it and they can listen to their higher self and ask themselves to listen to their impulses and their beautiful imagination. We tend to listen to our not so beautiful imagination sometimes, but to invite people into their own themness. I don't know what the word is, their you-ness. That it's shocking to me sometimes when people aren't aware that they're even there to search out. I remember talking to a woman at a book signing that I did, and we were talking about this, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about her dreams, and her dreams felt so achievable to me, and she felt she was locked out of them. Her dream was to be somebody who helped sell furniture at this one particular furniture store that was nearby. And it's like, you love that, right? Yes. You can walk in there, right? Yes, you could possibly ask them for a job, right? She goes, but I don't think I could ever achieve that. It's like, oh my gosh, honey, that's just like the first step to who you are, answering that call of what you love and moving it into the world. So I'm always shocked that people don't know that they're there in some situations, that seed of who they were born to be.
I have to ask you, because as I'm listening to you, I believe, like, I'm on board. I mean, this is Sonia and I, like, this is our love language right now, that you're speaking, because we see that in other people. We see it in ourselves. We bring it out. We challenge each other to live up to that as well. But have you just been that way always? Or was there a moment, like, were you just sort of born saying, like, there is this thing that I know we all have?
Yeah, I know that I was. And I also know that I was kind of shamed out of it. It's like, mind your own business. Don't be loud. Don't say, things that people don't agree with. Don't, and it's the story of everybody. And it's the story that's in that book, the Angie Sparkle book. Yes, I was absolutely born with an enthusiasm for life and other people, and then kind of told to live in the way that my family had decided was the right way to live. And it was a lot of looking outward to see if you were doing it right, or asking. I always say I was asked to look through someone else's eyes to see if I was okay. And so when I got to enough pain in my life, then I decided to sit down and try to really figure it out, instead of just beating myself up about not feeling the way I thought I should feel in life. And that's when the book came out. It's just that sense of, I mean, it seems so silly sometimes thinking about it, that discovery that there was someone special inside there that I'd been beating up most of my life. Like, oh man, why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? And to discover that and to nurture it, it just became like a beautiful obsession to figure out who I was. And
well, the courage. I mean, I've been following you, Joan, and so there's a video of your life, and I was so intrigued with your first. I think it was your first broadcasting opportunity, where you did not have a degree, but you came with interest.
Yeah.
And that, you know, the anti social messaging, like, how can you not have a degree? Your life will go nowhere. But you
Right.
came in with interest and you settled there. And to me, what happens afterwards, the snowball effect of your life, and then you getting closer and closer to the storyteller that you've always knew that you were. And just so inspiring. I'm going to tell everyone listening and viewing, you have to watch this video about Joan's life, because it is so inspiring. But you call it the selfish quitter, because you're like, well, when I'm done with this, I quit. But
because I listened to myself.
Yeah.
Right. I just listened to myself.
Repeat that, please. Yeah.
I said, I don't mean to say selfish in a bad way, because that's kind of the co-opting of that word. I was self-full. I listened to myself, and I knew that I wasn't in the right place. And so I quit. And quitting is not necessarily something that's applauded in this world.
But that's the thing, is if this isn't my path, that's not quitting. That's just readjust. I always talk about it in terms of skiing. Like, you know, when you're skiing, you don't just go down the hill and then point your skis. You turn, you keep turning, and then you look for your next turn. And sometimes you have a different turn, right?
Exactly. And a different view. And and then you decide, oh, that wasn't for me either, maybe, or, you know, but life is a more of an adventure that way, instead of like, okay, I'm going to lock in at this job. I'm not allowed to quit. I'm going to stay there forever. I'm going to learn how to do that job well. I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to enjoy my life. It's like, well, I think we have the opportunity in the middle of it to actually enjoy our lives. I have to say, I'm making less money now than I ever have in my whole life. I can't even tell you the percentage happier, more joyful, because I'm answering a call inside of me as opposed to a call outside of me.
Yeah.
So.
And at the end of the day, I know we have to end soon, but I just have to, you know, you call yourself a normal woman on your website, because remember, I'm following you everywhere.
Yeah.
We will have all the links and all the
tell you all about Joan.
Yes, we will have all those things up for everybody out there who's like, oh my God, I have to follow her too.
Follow her too. But what really intrigued me was that you gave yourself, you know, the normal woman. And to me, it was a welcome mat, because one might see you being way up there in terms of achievement and success. And oh my gosh, there's no way I can approach Joan. But yet you walk alongside me. I'm going to say as your person, not knowing you yet, but then normal woman, clicked on that. And then you represent, there was a poem there. But can you talk more about that decision to present yourself as the normal woman?
Well, that wasn't a decision either. That was just a knowing, you know? You know, because it becomes really apparent to you when you're walking out in the world and you have a job on television, that people will somehow try to put you somewhere else other than in normalcy. And it's like, I knew my normalcy. And so I had to keep reminding people of that. It's like, I'm living the same fears. I'm living the same hopes. I'm living this, you know, that I have a job on TV means I hold a microphone. Does that make me different than you? In some ways, because that's my job. But the core of who I am, it was just really apparent to me. I am like, I'm unique like everybody else, you know, but I am like everybody else. That's to me, one of the messages of this particular time too, is that we have to honor our diversity and respect our diversity and our individuality and our uniqueness, while also understanding that we're all connected and we're all operating from the same energetic field. So we are all normal and we're all unique. So it's that paradox.
Yeah.
You know, but I was never comfortable when people would try to put me into like somewhere else. It's like, no, I want to hang out with you. You know, I've never wanted to be a leader, I guess, I've never wanted to tell people what to do. I've only ever wanted to stand and radiate what I have. You know, and if it's useful to them, yay. And if it's not, that's okay too.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Before, I have to tell a story. I'm dying to tell this story now. And Joan has heard me tell this story before, because I think it is the silliest story, and it is one of my favorite stories about her. And then I would love for us to give a challenge, and then we'll give, you know, at our closing, we want to make sure everybody knows how to get books. We have more than one book out there. We have, you know, choose and publish it. I give this to all of my girlfriends. I always, I love this book. My mom has it. I'm sure my mom's going to be listening when we post, and my mom's going to be like, oh, there's Joan. It's Pam. Hi, Pam.
How you doing? Probably hang out too.
she's funny, and she's not too far from Cambridge. So
wow, really?
Yeah, she's in Alexandria. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. Sorry, y'all, you listeners. So years ago, I was doing a podcast, and there was a whole network, and then we went off air, but not before it was featured for a specific reason, but not before it was featured in our local newspaper. And Joe Brandemeyer, who happens to be Joan's husband, was driving through town and spent the night in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, when I was back living there, and saw this article about this story, What's Your Story, the show. And he contacted me. He's like, I think you and Joan might get along. And I'm like, Joan Steffend. I absolutely lost my ever loving mind. And I said, I don't have a show right now, but the local radio station wants me to come on and do a show. And he's like, well, give her a call when that's. So sure enough, I called and talked to you, and you were the kindest, most generous person, and were one of the first people that I had on, and could not, again, fangirling, like losing my ever loving mind. And I remember introducing it, and here's the moment. And you listeners, if you can make your children, your spouse, your next door neighbor, the person at the grocery store in the mask feel this way, I know you can, just in the words that you say. Like, this is it right here. This is what we can do for one another. I remember introducing Joan on the show, and I said, and she has been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And Joan says, just doesn't even miss a beat. And she goes, you know what else? I've been on Hillary Bilberry's show.
Exactly. Oh, yay me.
Yay you. Yeah, and did not even miss a beat. And in that moment, I thought, yeah, why the heck doesn't my story matter? Why doesn't my storytelling matter? And that is, we have the power. Joan, you have shown the way for, oh my gosh, you just have shown the way in the fact. Yes, you're right alongside me, but you're also a mentor in my mind. So you're just going to have to deal with it.
I'll be anywhere you want me to.
But what I love is that we can be intentional. We can decide to leave people better than we find them. And when we do that, that's where peace starts. That's where kindness starts. That's where change starts. That's the ripple effect.
Yeah. And liking people and honoring them, even if they're not at all where you are, you know, mentally, politically, age-wise, whatever, you know, you can still honor them there. And I would say, I would do this podcast a million times before I would long to do, you know, like the Oprah Winfrey Show right now, because I got to be so present with you, and you were so present with me, and it's exactly what we're talking about. This to me has just, as I said, great joy in it for me today. You make me feel good about myself, and you. Sometimes it's kind of a small, lonely thing to do when you feel like you're just kind of walking through life, and you know you're making a difference. But to have it reflected back to me by such beautiful and thoughtful and heartfelt women is a huge gift for me too. So thank you.
Thank you, Joan. And what a great way. We did have a challenge, a bit of a challenge for our viewers and listeners, and it is this notion of radiating our energy to others. So Hillary, you kind of mentioned it, but before we recorded, you mentioned, I would love for you just to summarize this book that you read by David Hawkins. Yes. Can you leave our audience with that challenge? And then this will be more tangible as you describe it.
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying radiance is nature's natural language, and it is your language that you are speaking all the time, whether you're using words or not. And the concept first was introduced to me by a man named Dr. David Hawkins. I was grateful to have worked with him a couple of times. Joyful doctor of, let's see, what did I say he was? He's an orthomolecular psychiatrist who had a spiritual awakening and moved to Sedona and spent 20 years contemplating life. And one of the conclusions that he came to was that one conscious, loving person, someone who spends their time, choosing to evolve and to radiate love or above, can balance off 750,000 who are not that. So basically what he's talking about is the fear to love ratio. Love in his mind, in his quantitative psychiatrist mind, was 750,000. Okay, this is where science comes to be a problem for me, because you can balance out 750,000, 750,000 people, and that's quite a ratio. So if you think that you can't make a difference by offering love, even if it's just from your home, you don't need to walk down the street and announce love to anybody. Just in your home, radiating your highest self to the world does a beautiful balancing act that we can all benefit from, and especially in these times. So Dr. David Hawkins, he was life-changing when I read his book. It's hugely challenging, but if you want to watch him on YouTube, he has lots of videos and you can see his impish, radiant personality there. So something you may want to try.
Thank you so much. So everyone, this is and I love the way you describe yourself, wildly independent encourager and storyteller, Joan. And we are, the one thing we're going to share all the links that you have. And not only were you the storyteller for yourself, listening to your own stories, helping others share their stories, but you also have a publishing company where you're helping stories get out there into the world. And so
it's not my publishing company, but it's the people who published my books. But
yes. Okay, great. And so may all the stories continue
to
expand. And we're going to share everything, all the links that I have mentioned, so our people can find you. Yeah. And I just have to say, for our viewers and listeners, Hillary and I, we are confident that you have developed some sort of courage to take things small, let a positive thing sit in your heart, welcome it, let it sit wherever it might lead, but that alone can radiate. And the intention of just sharing that one moment. We leave you with the show with that challenge, is to take the courage to live with a decided heart moment. Please subscribe to our channel because you are going to get more of these stories. And we also have all the podcast platforms. So follow us on the podcast platforms, YouTube, and then we will see you all next time on Decided Heart Effect. So thank you, everybody.